Howdy, y'all. Today we're going to talk about adding and subtracting real numbers. Yeah! Alright, so you got a gift card, and you've been keeping track. Let's see. When you spend money, you write it in red. When your Aunt Sue adds money, you write it in black. Alright, so you want to give the card to a friend. At the end of all this, how much money do you need to add onto the card to make it worth 25 bucks? Your friend is a lucky friend. I want to be your friend. Give me a $25 cash card. Go for it. Well, let's see. We start off with nothing. So here we are with nothing. Hi, I'm standing here with nothing. Next, I get a $50 cash card. Sweet. So boom. Now I'm up here at $50. But then I spend $19. Right there. Well, at least I got a new game for it, right? But I spent $19. So here's, let's see, 5, 10, 15, 16, 17, 18, $19. So now I've only got $31. Then what do? I buy a new jacket. Why am I buying a jacket in September? It's so weird. Maybe it's on clearance. Yeah, $29. It was on clearance. That's why we're buying it. Let's see. Oh no, I'm spending $29. So let's see here. If I go 10, it'll put me here. If I go another 10, it'll put me here. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Here I am at only $2. Here I am at only $2. Oh man. So I can't use this thing, right? Until 3 days later when Aunt Sue adds $25. Thank you, Aunt Sue. Alright, so I'm at 2. So if I go up 10, it'll put me at 12. If I go up 10 more, that's 20. It'll put me at 22. And then 5 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait a tick. That was positive. Positive money. It's supposed to be green. So there I got $27. But then, being the selfish guy that I am, I bought some new headphones. $13. Of course, if it was the headphones I really wanted, it'd be $130. But don't have that on my cash card. Sorry. So I'm going to spend 13. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Puts me there. But I was spending money, so it should be red. So here I am at $14. How much do I need to add to get to $25? I need to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, $11. There's $11 right there that I need to add to get up to 25. So, why did I do all this? It was to show you how we can use a number line to add and subtract real numbers. So, what is each sum? Use a number line. Let's see, 3 plus 5. I'm going to start at 3. 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to add 5, so I'm going to add a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5. So what's that? It's 5, 6, 7, 8. So 3 plus 5 equals 8. What about 3 plus negative 5? Well, I'm going to start at 3. But then negative 5 means I'm going to the left 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here I am at, this is negative 1, negative 2. So 3 plus negative 5 is negative 2. What about negative 3 plus 5? Well, negative 3, we're starting right here. Then plus 5 means we're going to the right 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here we are at positive 2. So negative 3 plus 5 is 2. How about negative 3 plus negative 5? Negative 3, we start here. And then plus a negative 5 means we're moving negative, so to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that is at negative 8. So negative 3 plus negative 5 is negative 8. So why don't you pause and see if you can do negative 8 plus 4. Alright, negative 8 starts right here. This is negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then plus 4 means 4 to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Here I am at negative 4. So negative 8 plus 4 equals negative 4. Okay, so write down some notes. The absolute value of a number is its distance from 0 on a number line. Absolute value is always non-negative because distance is non-negative. So positive 4 is 1, 2, 3, 4 steps away from 0. All we're counting is distance. We're not counting direction with absolute value. Negative 4 is 1, 2, 3, 4 steps away from 0. So the absolute value is 4. Absolute value just means how many units away from 0. So the absolute value of 4 is 4, and the absolute value of negative 4 is 4, and this is how we write absolute value of 4 equals 4. Absolute value of negative 4 equals 4. You can use absolute value when you find the sums of real numbers. So these are the mathematical, strict, detailed, exact definitions of adding numbers with the same sign and adding numbers with different signs. So if you add two numbers with the same sign, you add their absolute values. 3 plus 4 is 7, because absolute 3 plus absolute value of 4 is 3 plus 4 is 7. Then the sum keeps the same sign as the addends. So these are the addends, and this is the sum. If we were to add the absolute values here, the absolute value of negative 3 plus the absolute value of negative 4, absolute value of negative 3 is 3. Absolute value of negative 4 is 4. And then the sum keeps the sign of the addends. So that would be negative 7. Here's how I remember it. I remember it. 3 plus 4 is 7. Okay, you should have that one down by now. Negative 3 plus negative 4, here's how I think of it. I think of it as 3 negatives plus 4 negatives equals 7 negatives. Fair enough? Alright, adding numbers with different signs. Here's how I think about that. Well, I'll tell you the definition first. When you add two numbers with different signs, you subtract their absolute values. So, absolute value, if you take the absolute value of both of these, you're having 4 and 3, right? 4 minus 3 is 1. And then the sign, the sum takes the sign of the addend with the greater absolute value. So this has the greater absolute value, it's positive, so the sum is going to be positive. Here, the negative 4 absolute value is 4, that's greater than 3, so it's going to keep that sign, negative 1. Now let me tell you how I think about it. I think about it like this. Negative 3 is 3 negatives. Positive 4 is 4 positives. Positives and negatives cancel each other out, so I've got 1 positive left. So that's why it's positive 1. 3 plus negative 4 means I got 3 positives and 4 negatives. Each positive cancels out 1 negative, so I got 1 negative left. That's negative 1. Boom shakalaka. So what is each sum? Negative 12 plus 7. So I'm going to subtract these numbers and then make the answer negative because 12 is more than 7. So 12 minus 7 is 5, but it has to be negative. So negative 5. The difference of the absolute values is 5. The negative addend has a greater absolute value, so the sum is negative. Alright, here I'm taking 18 negatives and I'm adding 2 more negatives. That means I'm going to add them together and call them all negative. So 18 negatives plus 2 more negatives is 20 negatives. Negative 20. Negative 4.8 plus 9.5. These are opposite signs, so I'm going to subtract the two numbers, the absolute values. So I'm going to do 9.5 minus 4.8. I'm going to have to borrow. 15 minus 8 is 7. 8 minus 4 is 4. So it's 4.7. And the bigger number was positive, so positive 4.7. Booyah! How about 3/4 plus negative 5/6? Alright, well, now we're getting a little trickier. We need to get a common denominator. It looks like they both go into 12. Oops. Need to give myself a little more room than that. Okay, common denominator is 12. So, what do I multiply to make a 4 into 12? 4 times 3 is 12. So I need to multiply by 3 over 3, which is the same as multiplying by 1. Over here I need to multiply by 2 over 2 because 6 times 2 is 12. And this gives me 3 times 3 is 9. 9 over 12 plus, and then negative 5 times 2 is 10 over 6 times 2 is 12. Now that I have the same denominator, I can now add the numerators. So I'm just going to do, this is going to be equals over 12. 9 plus negative 10 over 12. Alright, so opposite signs means I'm going to subtract. 10 minus 9 is 1. But what sign is it? Who's bigger? The negatives. We got more negatives, so that means it's going to be negative. The sum will be negative 1 over 12. And if you like typing better than my handwriting, boom, there you go. Alright, pause and see if you can do these guys. Alright, so A is negative 16 plus negative 8. Same sign means I add them together and keep the sign. So 16 plus 8 is 24. So negative 24. Negative 11 plus 9. These are opposite signs, so I'm going to subtract and keep the sign of the bigger absolute value. So 11 minus 9 is 2, but I have more negatives, so it's negative 2. 9 plus negative 11. Opposite signs, so I'm going to subtract. 11 minus 9 is 2, but the bigger absolute value has a negative, so the answer is going to be negative. And if you look at these, isn't this really just an example of the commutative property? Negative 11 plus 9 is the same as 9 plus negative 11, and they both equal negative 2. So boom, it's all coming together. Here we got negative 6 plus negative 2. Same sign. So I add the numbers. 6 plus 2 is 8. But they're all negatives, so negative. Alright, here's a little bit of notes. What does it mean to subtract? Well, I'll tell you what. You might think you know what subtracting is, but check this out. See if you really do. Subtracting a real number is just adding its opposite. So A minus B is defined as A plus the opposite of B. So now, if we think about A minus B as A plus the opposite of B, now we can use all these properties that we had for addition. Because a lot of those properties don't work with subtraction. For example, the commutative property. Is 3 minus 5 the same thing as 5 minus 3? 3 minus 5 is negative 2. 5 minus 3 is positive 2. Not the same. Commutative property doesn't work with subtraction. But If you consider it as a plus negative b, what if we have 3 plus negative 5? Is that the same as negative 5 plus 3? Here, let's see, 5 minus 3 is 2, but we got more negatives. And then same rule over here, right? Opposite sign, so subtract and then keep the negative. So that's going to be negative 2. So it does work if you write it as addition using the definition of subtraction. So whenever you see 3 minus 5, what's really happening in the background, even though we don't write it every time, is that we're doing 3 plus negative 5. Then we use the addition rules to say, alright, well, opposite signs, so 5 minus 3 is 2, but the bigger number was negative, so the answer stays negative. If we're subtracting a negative, now here's how you've probably heard when minus a negative is a positive. Here's why. 3 minus this number is defined as 3 plus the opposite of this number. So it's 3 plus 5 equals 8. Pretty cool, right? Sometimes teachers will tell you to do this. When you see minus a negative, you just make it whoosh, whoosh, a big old plus sign. Booyah! Anywho, problem number 3. Negative 8 minus negative 13. The definition of subtraction says that's going to be negative 8 plus the opposite of negative 13, which is negative 8 plus 13. So now we use the addition rules. These are opposite signs, so I'm going to do 13 minus 8 is 5, and the 13 was bigger and is positive, so positive 5. Alright, 3.5 minus 12.4. The definition of subtraction says that's 3.5 plus negative 12.4. Alright, so now these are opposite signs, so 12.4 minus 3.5, and the answer will be negative because the 12.4 is bigger. So negative 8.9. 9 minus 9 is the same as 9 plus negative 9. And then what do we have here? This looks like 9 and negative 9 is 0. That's the inverse property of addition. Okay, so pause and see if you can figure out 4.8 minus negative 8.7. So the definition of subtraction tells us this really means 4.8 plus the opposite of this, which is positive 8.7. And 4.8 plus 8.7 is 13.5. Reasoning. For what values of a and b does a minus b equal b minus a? Let's see now. The only way that would work, remember we proved it wrong at the beginning, is if a equals b. Because here, let's say you got 3 minus 3 equals 3 minus 3. That's the only way it'll work, is if a equals b. And also, the secret phrase of the day is lip balm. Lip balm. Alright, problem 4. A reef explorer dives 25 feet to photograph brain coral and then rises 16 feet to travel over a ridge before diving 47 feet to survey the base of the reef. Then the diver rises 29 feet to see an underwater cavern. What is the location of the cavern relative to sea level? So how far below sea level is yonder cavern? Well, let's see. Start off at 0. 0 is sea level, so here's the sea level at 0. Then we go down 25. Down 25, so we're at negative 25. Then rises 16. Up 16. Then dives 47. Negative 47. Then rises 29. 29. So we want to find out how far down are we. It's going to be down, so our answer should be negative. So here's our expression. 0, where we started, minus 25, that's down 25, plus 16, we went up 16, minus 47 plus 29. There's our expression. Then we use the rule for subtracting real numbers, adding opposites. Then we can use the commutative property to move the negatives to the end and the positives over here. Then we can use the associative property to put together addends that have the same sign. Then we can actually add those. 16 plus 29 is 45. 25 plus 47 is 72, but these are all negatives we're adding up, so negative 72. Then we can, well, the identity property of addition tells us anything we add to 0 is just this. So the 0 kind of disappears. And then we use the rules of addition. 72 minus 45 is 27, but our bigger number was negative, so the answer is negative. So the cavern is negative 27 feet in relation to the sea level, meaning 27 feet below sea level. Why don't you pause and see if you can figure out number 4? Alright, number 4. A robot submarine, here's the ocean at 0, dives 803 feet. So that's negative 803. It rises 215 feet. Plus 215. As the water gets shallower, then the submarine dives 2,619. So negative 2,619 into a deep crevasse. Next it rises 734 to photograph a crack in the wall. So here's your crack. Crack in the wall of the thingy. How high is it? Well, here's our expression. 0 minus 803 plus 215 minus 2,619 plus 734. I'm going to use the commutative property to put all the positive stuff up front. 0 plus 215 plus 734. Oh wait, I can't do the commutative property until I've changed everything to addition. So first I have to use the rule for subtracting real numbers. This is 0 plus negative 803 plus 215 plus negative 2,619 plus 734. Now, since everything's addition, I can use the commutative property of addition to rearrange the order. I want my positive stuff up front. Negative 803 plus negative 2,619. Then I can use the associative property. 215 plus 734 plus, you put a bracket when you're going to have parentheses inside of parentheses. Negative 803 plus negative 2,619. Then I can simplify inside the parentheses. 0 plus 215 plus 734 is 949 plus, now these are the same signs, so I'm going to add them together and keep that sign. So 803 plus 2,619 is 3,422, but it's negative. Negative 3,422. Then I got the additive identity of 0. So this is just 949 plus negative 3,422. Now, these are opposite signs, so I'm going to subtract and then keep the sign of the bigger one. This one's bigger, it's negative, so I know my answer is going to be negative. And then I just need to subtract 3422 minus 949 is 2473. So we are negative 2,473 feet in relation to sea level, which means we're 2,473 feet below sea level. I hope you enjoyed that. Now you can work on practice 1.5 and formal write-up 1.5. And I will see you later.